I would rather be hated for who I am than admired for being plastic.
Yeah.
Let's give women a playing field and let them be who they are without fitting in a corporate Barbie plastic box. You can get stuck in the past and the things that you were trained to do. I was afraid to move myself to that next level because I was so stuck in what I knew I was really, really good at. No matter what you're working towards, it's all about identity and how you see yourself. If you don't see that for yourself, it's not going to happen.
Okay, so now you have a taste of who Jennifer Carter is. And honestly, that energy you just felt, it carries through the whole conversation. Today's episode is for anyone who's trying to rebuild themselves after corporate, especially if your brand still sounds like the version of you that was trained to stay safe. Jennifer and I talk about identity before marketing, the cost of performing a version of yourself your clients don't actually connect with, and what it looks like to unmute your real voice so the right clients can actually find you. This is Unfiltered Solopreneur. I'm Nikhil. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Unfiltered Solopreneur. I'm your host, Nikhil. My next guest went from pet to threat the moment she started owning her power in corporate. So she said, screw it, and launched a business at 6 a.m. on a Saturday to help other ambitious women reclaim their power. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
So nice to see you.
It's exciting. I'm excited for our conversation. So I like to dive right in. Now, you were a classic high achiever, right? Valedictorian, 4.0, people pleasing, climbing the nonprofit corporate ladder. Then you mentioned this concept of going from pet to threat, where you were celebrated as this bright young thing until you started asserting real authority, and then suddenly the doors started closing. So, what was the moment you realized that the rules had changed for you?
I don't even know if there was one single moment, but I do remember feeling sometimes when I said my opinion, it was celebrated. Other times it was I'm being too much, being difficult. Um, Things started getting, moved out from under my scope of control. So it all happens very gradually. So I didn't even notice it at first. Um, until, you wake up one morning, you're like, what is happening? Something's not quite right.
So the other thing is, you said you had this idea 10 years ago, right? But you told yourself they must be special or different from me, know something I don't. So what did you think an entrepreneur needed to be that you weren't?
Well, whatever it wasn't me. Like they had to have a business savvy. They had to be well known. They had to be seen as an expert. And I just couldn't see myself that way, especially back then. Like I remember telling my friend 10 years ago, like I'm writing a book. And he was like, what's it about? I'm like, I don't know yet. It's gonna be great. Right. Or like I remember when I started dipped my toe in entrepreneurial waters. It was very one foot in, one foot out, mainly with one foot out. So I could make it true that I wasn't good enough, wasn't ready, wasn't smart enough, but I never really tried. I had never really tried. I just thought it took, more money or influence or somebody special. I just didn't see myself as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. It's hard, right? If you don't have a blueprint. I mean, I was similar. My parents always worked when my dad did, and pretty much everyone in my family, there weren't any sort of people I could look up to and say, okay, they took an entrepreneurial route, and there's like either it's there in me or it's so. I waited 10 probably years longer than I wanted to actually make the leap. So I think I'm still sort of debating whether it's something that lives inside people or it's an external push that causes a person to finally take that leap, right? Because I still know so many people who are like, oh, I just want to do that, but I'm, for whatever reason, I can't do it.
From what I see and from what I've learned about myself and what I hear my clients say, no matter what you're working towards, it's all about identity and how you see yourself.
Yeah.
Like I see people that are more than capable in their careers, but they don't apply for the next level up because they don't, that doesn't compute for them that that's who they are, that's what they could be. They think it's for somebody else. Just like diving into being an entrepreneur, if you don't see that for yourself or say out loud and believe it, I'm an entrepreneur, it's not going to happen. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of work to be done, I think, in identity shifts so people can see themselves that way, even if the 3D world isn't showing that at this exact moment.
True, and I'm not sure there really is ever a roadmap for this path, right? You kind of just have to take the leap, like you said, and I think you sort of have to get to that level of self belief and visualization to finally make the leap. And I always say the net appears after you leap.
You have to leap,
Yeah.
and
So
whatever that leap is. Yes. Yep.
okay. So in your bio, you also mentioned that your dream job looked great on LinkedIn, right? But behind the scenes, it was quietly burning you to the ground, I think is the expression you used, while you were feeling sort of rushed with your kids. So what was the moment you realized that you were missing your own life?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So a year ago, it's been a year already. My grandmother passed away. We were quite close, and I'm in Texas. She lived in Michigan. It was during a blizzard, right? And so I remember going to my supervisor and saying, "My grandmother passed away. I need to get out to go to the funeral." He had stated, "If you leave today, we're just going to cancel all these meetings and this retreat because it's pointless. You need to realize how important you are and your responsibility to the company." And I was just like, "What?" And then, like an idiot, I moved my flight, ended up driving through a blizzard in the dark. And then I remember sitting in the pew at my grandmother's funeral, waiting to give a eulogy, and I got a Teams message from my boss asking for numbers that I wasn't even in charge of or had access to. And I just remember thinking, this is the dumbest thing. Um, why is this okay? Words and actions aren't matching. This is not alignment. And my life is more important than corporate acceptance.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing how we were sort of taught to believe that the job comes first, right, and everything else is sort of secondary. And yeah, I know so many times when I've sort of changed plans, personal plans, based on work emergencies, right? And the thing is, they never sort of they never abate. You agree to one, and it's like you've opened the door, right? You give an inch, and they take a yard, as it used to be. So
Right. And they're never really emergencies.
mm, true.
Like it's like what's an emergency?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's
Is it
true. I mean,
yeah, is it that you're just not prepared for a board meeting and you want me to sit there and listen to you while you practice? Like maybe you should have done a little better planning. I don't know what
yeah.
to tell you. Right.
Yeah, I remember a time when I was in the corporate world, people would sometimes come crying to my office to say they'd missed a deadline or something, and I'd sit them down and say, "Okay, are we saving lives? Are we changing the world? It's okay then." You know, it is.
Nobody's
It,
gonna
yeah,
die.
yeah. Nobody's dying. We're not like so you don't need to stress that much over a missed deadline. So no, I agree with you, but it takes time to learn that, right? Because
Right.
they sort
For
of drill
sure.
into
For
you
sure.
that everything is more important than your life. So okay.
And then it's even, I don't know how many months it's been, 8, 9 months later, looking at old pictures of me, I just see that corporate fembot Barbie, very palatable business wear, smile. I think of talking points. What do I need to say for the company? And there was very little of me in it.
Yeah.
And the more I expressed myself, the more I was pushed down because really they didn't want me. They wanted what I could do without all of this personality and real thoughts. They just wanted, I think, somebody as a great spokesperson, a public speaker, a great team player. But as long as that team meant following what somebody laid out for me to do.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, I think there still is in 2026 that double standard, right? When it comes to men and women, it's almost like men are sort of encouraged to speak out and to speak up, and women are sort of discouraged from doing that. I even had another guest on my show who mentioned to me who does corporate training on sort of gender equality within organizations, and she even said that people sort of tell her quietly before the training, don't empower the women too much, just enough to sort of like not to like come in and start demanding raises and promotions and things like that. So it is crazy, and it's amazing in 2026 we're still talking about this.
Yeah. And it's so, when I first then like went down this path, I had somebody tell me that I was a man hater. And I was like, what? What did I say something inappropriate? Like offensive? Like what did I say? Because I'm just curious. Like, well, you didn't say anything, but you're very pro woman. And so I had to clarify with that person. So does meaning that I'm pro woman in your mind mean I'm anti man? And it was yes, which blows my mind
Yeah.
because, right. There's just, that's the threat part, I think. It's just because I'm a strong woman helping other women, it doesn't mean that I'm bring down the man. Men can't have executive roles. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying
No.
let's give women a playing field and let them be who they are without fitting in a corporate Barbie plastic box.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that actually reminds me of, I remember how when Steve Jobs was notoriously difficult, exacting is what he was called, like, a perfectionist when he berated people. Whereas Marissa Mayer, I remember when she came to run Yahoo, she was called difficult for doing the same things. Like she's a difficult person to work with, a troublesome boss. You know what I mean? It was like the same standard is not applied to men or women either. So it is amazing.
It is amazing.
So now I love the story of how you finally made the leap, right, to entrepreneurship, to solopreneurship. You woke up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday and you decided nobody's going to dictate my power. And you posted on LinkedIn that you've launched. Now that's such a raw, impulsive, brave moment, right? So can you take us back to that moment? What was sort of going through your head? What did you think was going to happen in the next 24 hours?
Well, I really had no thoughts as to what was going to happen in the next 24 hours. Um, I just remember needing a path to feed my family. And I remember I wasn't going to wait around for anybody else to see my value or my worth. And so this was it. It's just like you said, when you take a leap, the net appears. So I decided to leap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like that. Like what else? What do I have to lose? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. And I think yeah, it's a combination of things, right? It sounded like you said you sort of looked in the mirror and you're like, you didn't like who you were becoming. And I sort of had that too with realization in the corporate world. I got promoted out of turn and I could see my future like 10 years from now. And that is not who I wanted to be in that space. So yeah, that was when I left Ogilvy too at that time. So
Yeah,
I
you
totally hear
gotta.
that. But you're right. It took me a while to go off completely on my own, but I took the leap in 2008 and did a whole bunch of things until I got here. So I want to shift gears a little bit to brand building. Now, I love that you started by putting everything out there, right? So you were doing strategic planning, offering training, speaking, coaching, fractional work, and that is absolutely an honest solopreneur move. And I encourage people to sort of go wide, right? But tell us what made you realize you needed to narrow your focus, and
I
how did you
couldn't.
decide that coaching was sort of your thing?
Yeah, I couldn't focus to launch anything. To launch something, I couldn't focus on anything, right? So I was trying to build this, and then offerings for training, and then here's fractional services, and I was spread so thin I couldn't do any of it well. So I really focused on coaching and focused on building that. And while I was building that, other things started to come my way in those other segments that then I could say yes or no to if it fit with my schedule and my values. And it's like, even right now, I'm getting speaking engagements. I'm moving to a group coaching model, right? Because it's gotten big enough. Um, and the trainings, they're just like coming left and right. And that was just from focusing on coaching,
Right.
right? Which is really interesting to me because I can, train and speak in my sleep. And so it's easy. It feels so much easier than what I was initially doing.
Right.
Before I was putting in so much effort and making it so much more difficult than it actually needed to be.
And how did you decide on coaching? What drew you to that?
Oh my gosh. I just love seeing people take steps forward and believe in themselves.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. I got my coaching certification during the pandemic, and I used it a lot at work with my staff. And I could just see them move from point A to point B, B to point C. And it made me so happy to see people come into their own. And so I remember looking at my calendar and realizing the things that I get to do when I'm coaching people and connecting with people brought me so much joy and invigorated me. I remember like laying awake at night, thinking about them. What are they doing? I wonder how this meeting went. And it's just so exciting to see people lift that veil from their own eyes.
Yeah. And is the reason you didn't focus on coaching initially just sort of because you were sort of looking for your sweet spot? You hadn't figured out that that was the thing?
Right. And, it's find your niche, find your
Yeah.
niche, find your niche. And I'm like, I don't know what my niche is. And it's still evolving.
Yeah.
So it started as executive coaching, and then it went to specific leadership coaching. And now I'm doing a combination of the two. It was hard for me to put a label on it. I'm getting stronger at that. And it's fun because I think as a coach, like I use coaches, I have multiple coaches, and they've helped me with everything from mindset to defining that niche, what lights me up, who I am, finding my voice, because it can get lost and you can get stuck in the past and the things that you were trained to do. One of my clients was actually telling me, like, there's the zone of excellence, the things that you're great at, and then there's the zone of genius.
Yeah.
So I was afraid to move myself to that next level zone of genius because I was so stuck in what I knew I was really, really good at. Um, so I had to lift the veil myself.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because I had a discussion I think a week ago with another solopreneur who was sort of figuring this out, and I'm a big advocate for like don't niche early, because I think the only way to figure out your niche is by doing, right, and sort of scratching off this, then figuring out this is the point to focus. But unless you do those 5 or 7 or 8 things, you're not going to figure out where you bring the most value and what brings you the most joy and can pay the bills, right? It has to be a combination of those three
Right.
things.
And it can change. Like
Absolutely.
just because you start with something, it doesn't mean that's how you have to finish. I don't know any major corporation who has the exact same product as when they started with multiple
No,
iterations.
absolutely. I mean, IBM used to make meat grinders. I mean, people are going to be shocked
Who
to know
did?
that today. IBM.
I had no idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you go back and look at the evolution of their products, I mean, so
It's
yeah,
so
you're right.
cool.
Every company has been through, so, and that's the only way I think you're not growing if you're not evolving. And
Right. It's fun.
yeah, it is. And you learn and you build, right? And that's the key thing. As long as you don't get sort of stuck and being stubborn and saying, this is the only thing I want to do, then, that's problematic. Otherwise, I think evolution is good. And as a solo business, you will change every 6 months from where you are today. So go ahead. Yeah.
No, no, that just makes sense. Every 6 months. That feels right. Like I hadn't been able to quantify that before, but based on where I am, like that feels right. Because you're growing and it's changing and you learn. Like when I first started, I got so many different scheduling tools and this website and this other software package. And then I had duplicates of everything and it was all confusing. And then you shift how you do things and you learn and you make it better. And yeah, that's a good point.
So the other thing I want to touch on is you spent years advocating for massive organizations like Goodwill, right? Now you are the brand. So you mentioned you're currently sort of learning Instagram, LinkedIn, and the back end of marketing. What's been the hardest part of translating your corporate value into a personal brand that, say, connects with a stranger on a cell phone?
The hardest part is learning to lift the corporate veil on corporate speak and just to talk how I talk, speak
Right.
how I speak, put the words on the page that is what I really feel without having the really dull corporate business speak language. I think so many of us have been trained like, we're going to leverage blah, blah, blah. It's just so dull and it's not real. And so a lot of what I do, I have a podcast called Unmute Yourself. It's
Yeah.
unmuting my own self to be able to share my opinions, my values, my thoughts, what I've learned, in the way that I actually speak without that professional filter. And I think in turn, that makes it that much more relatable and real. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to talk to some corporate bot. It could be anybody. So
Yeah.
dull. Like we're not here to do that.
Yeah. No, that reminds me, we used to play a game called Bullshit Bingo. On every call, how many times somebody said ROI and I forget
KPIs.
all the other
Let's
terminology. Like,
circle back.
yeah, let's
You
circle
want to
back.
circle back? Let's circle back.
Exactly.
Y'all listening, we're going to circle back.
It's funny though, right? Because when we start out as kids, one day you're an astronaut, the next day you're a teacher, the next day you're a poet. You can be all of these different things, and there's no restrictions to our imagination. And then I feel like the formal system, starting with education and, like you said, the corporate world, just turn us into these all the same people, right? Because we're taught to think the same way, to act the same way, to talk the same way. I mean, it is what
Never
it is.
again.
But solopreneurship, to me, the unlearning is what you touched on, which I think is really, most people, if there's a thread, they all tell me that I've had to sort of learn all the things that have been layered on over the years and sort of find my own voice again.
True story.
Yeah.
Buckle up. I mean, it's not that exciting, but I when I was, I don't know, 30, early 30s, I did this national level leadership program to prepare to be a CEO of an organization. Did I ever tell you this story?
No, go ahead.
Okay. And I showed up, midterm was this interview with the panel. And when I first started, my hair is wild and crazy, and I've got a very unique style. Um, and when I showed up, one woman on the panel said, Jennifer, you're not going to make it because you don't look like a CEO. You need to cut your hair, put on conservative clothing. And I thought in that moment, I don't belong. I'm never going to belong. I'm going to have to mask and fake it. And from that point forward, I was always trying to look the part so people would take me seriously and say the thing and speak in a way that was palatable, business oriented. And you know what? And it served me well for what I was working to accomplish, right?
Yeah.
It helped me navigate the politics of corporate and leadership life. And at the same time, it was so ingrained in me. I really think I did my staff a disservice because they saw my example as what they had to be. And
Right.
I don't want that to be true for anybody. All I want for people is for them to be themselves and to live their truth and however that shows up. Now, I get tapped to work with organizations, and I am very clear up front in consulting like, this is who I am. This is what I require from an autonomy standpoint. This is how I talk. If you don't like it, no harm, no foul. It's not a great fit. Let's move on. And so it's like a blind date when you show up and just are yourself, A, B, and C. without trying to, oh, are they going to like me? Are they going to like me? Are they going to like me? Like I'm done with all that. I would rather be hated for who I am than admired for being plastic.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And I think that's such a brilliant sort of evolution of solopreneurship, right? Because we all start out thinking we have to mold ourselves to what we think our clients are looking for, when exactly the opposite is true. You've got to be yourself and attract the people who want that, right? Like you said. And it doesn't
Right.
matter. It's you're not for everyone, and that's the whole
No.
point. If you try to
Right.
be for everyone, you're going to be for nobody, right? That's what I always tell people. You,
Right.
everything to all people is nothing to anybody. So, uh,
Right.
yeah, no, and also interestingly, there's that double standard again, right? Because you have all these hoodie wearing tech CEOs who are like considered, oh, so cool. But imagine a female CEO coming in who hasn't brushed her hair or has no makeup will be lambasted for showing up as unprofessional.
But it's so exciting. And
Uh,
I have just enough sass that I would do it just to see what happens. You know what I mean? Like,
I
don't you
think
just
you should.
so curious,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So Uh, I also love the name of your business, right? Flashlight Thinking. But I'm curious about the origin and what does it mean to you? And more importantly, what do you notice people understand right away, and what do you still have to explain about it?
Well, they don't understand it, which is why I'm likely having to change it.
Okay.
But 10 years ago, flat, I was like, what do I do? What do I do? What I do is I'm a mirror to people and help them see things that they can't see themselves. So then I'm like, it's like shining a flashlight on their thinking, right? Getting into the nooks and crannies of your brain. What's hidden? What are you resisting? What are you stuck on? Where are you holding yourself back? And so that's where it came from. Um, I still do that, but I don't know that the name will be around much longer. We'll see. We'll see. Because it's
Okay.
hard to explain. Like, what
Right.
flashlight thinking? What is that? How do you
Yeah.
pick a business name, right?
Sorry.
Like, how do you pick a business name? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
again, you have to sort of you have to listen to the market, which you're doing, right? I always
Right.
say that your best market research is don't get defensive if someone says, "Hey, I don't get it," right? That they're basically telling you that you need to evolve it in a
Right.
way that people get it, because ultimately that's what our business is about, is
Right.
connecting with people and explaining. So I always say, it's like, put your ego aside. Like I've changed a bunch of things in my business for similar reasons, where somebody's been like, okay, that's really great, but what the hell does it mean? And I'm like, okay, yeah, if
You're
you,
like,
if you don't
great
get it,
question.
yeah,
Great
if I'm the
question.
only person who gets it, yeah, exactly. So tell me though, what would your rebrand capture that flashlight thinking doesn't communicate right now? Do you have a sense of that?
More of my zhuzh, more of
Yeah.
my je ne sais quoi, like a um, more myself,
Hmm.
more fun, more spunk, less dark and heavy. Like right now, like my background is dark gray. When I first dreamed and building my brand, those, I don't know, 5, 10 years ago, I had decided to appeal towards men because men were in the majority of leadership positions that I was encountering at the time.
Right.
And I had been successful in supporting men in leadership positions, right, as their right hand person. So I'm like, this makes sense. But guess what? Men didn't want to listen to me, or right. There's just, I wasn't getting hired, but then again, I wasn't trying that hard either. So now it's really making my brand colors vibe feel like me. So it's all aligned and matches. Right now, I don't feel like it matches.
No, talking to you, I can tell you it doesn't. It
Right. It
doesn't
doesn't,
vibe
does
with your
it?
personality. Yeah, you're like a burst of color, and I don't see
Right.
that right now. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So so moving on from sort of building on that question about differentiation and sort of your zhuzh or your special ingredient. So coaching is a pretty crowded and saturated market, right? And there's a lot of baggage around executive leadership coaching. So what's something people assume about coaching that you find yourself correcting or doing differently?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Especially with career coaching. I have clients who have gone to career coaches. I even went to a career coach
Yeah.
a few years ago, and it was Here's how you interview. Let me doll up your resume. Let's fix your LinkedIn to match. There you go. Good luck. Here's how you track everything. It's like it seems to be a more tactical means. And for me, I don't start with that.
Yeah.
I work with folks who are ready for a change, who want to go a completely different direction, who are feeling things that I felt when I was in a W-2 job, or folks that have suddenly found themselves without employment and need to pivot and pivot quickly and not getting any response. So what I start with is your identity. I know we talked a lot about that in the beginning, but like, who are you really and what do you really want? Not just what you're used to, because now is a great time for alignment. So you're not feeling burnt out, unappreciated. You don't get the Sunday scaries. Your stomach doesn't hurt on a Monday morning. You're not dreading interacting with your coworkers and doing the work. So it's really taking that excellence that folks have and those skills and what they really like and want to do. And it's not just a job title.
Hmm.
It's not just pay. It's how do you know you're valued? What impact do you want to make on the world? How do you want to interact with the team? What kind of relationship do you want with your boss? What kind of markets do you want to work in? And we do a lot of internal work on getting the identity to match. And only when that identity matches do we start the actual resume, job leads, applying, because otherwise it gets confusing for people because they're just a panic applying.
Yeah.
I have one client who applied for like 60 jobs. He got one interview because it's just, I need a job. I need a job. I need a job. I need a job. My resume's perfect, but I'm not getting interviews. Well, it's because you're confused about what you want. The world, the universe is getting confused about what you want. So you've got to be able to target and know who you are so you can put that real version of yourself out into the world for an ideal match.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense to me. And we saw you sort of, you're right. We touched on the identity piece, but it feels sounds like you sort of unpeeling the layers of that onion first, right? Before, because I always say people hide behind a resume or a CV, and that's what we typically do. Is where yeah,
Right.
where the real person is never there on that
No.
piece of paper on that LinkedIn profile.
Most times, I hold on, I'm going to take it back. Every time that I've seen a client resume, at first glance, they look like everybody else and I couldn't pick them out of the crowd.
Yeah,
I would rather have weird little quirky bits of people that show who they really are than a perfect black and white bulleted list of accomplishments. If I could exchange your name for my name on a resume and you couldn't tell the difference, like that's not going to fly.
no,
No.
no, and that's how a lot of them are built, right? Because again, you're building it based on what you think people want you to be versus who you really are. So
Right.
yeah, it's a
Right.
difficult process. So I want to shift gears a little bit again. You sort of touched on this a few minutes ago in terms of, but I think every solopreneur sort of will relate to this challenge. When you were starting out, you ended up with like, I think, 3 scheduling tools and multiple digital signature platforms because you thought you needed all this software. So
Right.
what's your tool audit process now? Tell us. Like, do you have any rules you use to decide what stays, what goes?
I'm still digging out of it.
Okay.
Still digging out of it. But and I get a lot of help to build my company. Like I'm not turning a profit yet. And I'm saying this because depending on who you hire to help you, right? They're going to be like, use this, use that, use this. And you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then you end up with 10 million different ones. So now I know enough to ask the questions of
Right.
this is what I'm using and how it integrates. These are all of my other systems. Can I just use this instead of tacking on something else? Um, so that's the approach that I'm taking now. I've whittled it down. It's still not perfect, especially as I'm working to scale, right? I know I'm going to have to do some things differently, but I'm not just going to tack on a system just to tack on a system without first evaluating what I already have. And you've got to know what you need it to do
Yeah.
before you make a decision. And it's so funny how much you learn when you're the coach. I was coaching someone the other day, like, before you choose an HR system, you have to know what you want it to do. And I'm like, Jennifer, that's the same thing for you. Like, there's a million different scheduling systems, but what all do you need it to do before you actually choose? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been
And
fun.
that's one of the perils of this, right? Is do as I say, don't do as I do.
Right.
We're still learning as we go along too. But yeah, but you're right. Us. I think that's the most important thing. What do you want it to do for you, right? Irrespective
Right.
of what somebody else wants or what they loved about it, it doesn't matter because that may not be the right tool for what you need and the way you work. So
Right. And you know what? At the beginning, you're probably not going to know, and
no,
that's okay. You do the best that you can. Just don't sign any long-term
long-term contract.
contracts. Right. Right.
True. Yeah.
Right.
So the podcast you mentioned a minute ago, unmute yourself, seems like it's been a core part of your strategy from day one, right? So tell us a little bit about why you prioritize that so early, and are you thinking of it as a business building tool, visibility tool, or something else?
Can I tell you the honest truth?
Yeah,
It's that I had zero strategy for it other than it was important to my being.
yeah,
When I was coming up, there were very few women examples for me. And the women that I looked up to, they seemed so out of reach because they were so grounded, well versed. I remember she was what's her name? Kathy Crosby. Oh,
don't know.
I think I got to meet her 2 times. She was a CEO of Goodwill in Grand Rapids for a very long time. And I would just watch her speak, and she was so put together and so thoughtful. And all I could think was, I could never be like her. And then I remember speaking to her at some mixer networking event. I'm like, she's a nice and normal human being. So when I thought about what I wanted to put into the world now that I'm on my own, I wanted women to see their greatness in themselves, and that you don't have to be one certain way to be successful. And the definition of success is all over the place. I'm just about to start recording season 3, and I have someone who has her own hair salon, and she is this outspoken HR executive as well, just so smart. Last season, I interviewed someone who's been a teaching artist for a long time, and she's just starting her journey as a manager in a fast food industry. And she's so excited and happy and proud of herself. And I'm so proud of her. It's everybody's journey is different, and you don't have to win a stinking gold medal or be on the cover of Forbes to be impactful, important, and valuable. And so by doing that, I just like to get to know people and help inspire others. Um, Now that it's been going for a while, I am using it as an outreach strategy and being more conscious of connecting and networking. Um, the intention for me is not to sell my guests on my services, it's to make that connection. And if they ever need my services, they think of me. Right. My number one goal is to just make the connection and share their story.
Yeah.
I'm sure people would be like, that's dumb, sell them, use it as an intentional um, selling platform. But to me, the most important thing is getting people to know who they are, the
Yeah.
world to know who they are.
Yeah, and again, it has to fit you, right? I always say that just because somebody tells you there's a great funnel or a way to, like, build a business, it doesn't mean it's right for you. It could be right
Right.
for them. So again,
Right.
I'm a firm believer in sort of you figure out the things that are important to you. And I would argue you had a strategy. You had something to say, you had a point of view, and you wanted to share something with the world. And to me, that is a great reason to start a podcast. And how it evolves is, again, part of the journey.
Yeah. I'm having the time of my life. I love it. My podcast recording days are some of my favorite days just because you get to know people on a whole different level, and you never know what's gonna come up.
Yeah, likewise. I love having these conversations too. So
Right?
I feel
Yeah.
lucky to meet so many awesome people and tell their stories, share their stories. So you hired a coach when you were still in corporate, about leaving your job as a coach, right? But then you got overwhelmed, you said, and didn't do it. So I guess what I want to know is what's different now in how you approach building your business? What's changed about how you process information or make decisions?
Before, it was about having to have everything perfect up front.
Yeah.
You have to have your website. I spent so much money on my website, and it's a beautiful website, but you don't need to have it all done and perfect before you go hang a shingle and start. You've got to have everything worked out. And who, like, I got so caught up in making it perfect, I panicked that I couldn't get it perfect. And that helped feed my brain that I wasn't an entrepreneur because I don't know how to do it and it makes me nervous. And okay, I have all this set up, but now what am I supposed to do? Do I go get clients? Is it good enough? Is it not good enough? Um, and so now I care less and I give more. I'm less concerned about being perfect. I'll post on Instagram, and a lot of my stuff is just, I'm like, oh, that sucked. Like, that wasn't good. But I try, and like that's the only way that you learn. It's not going to be perfect right out the gate. We didn't climb a corporate by being the perfectly polished versions of ourselves. We made a lot of mistakes along the way. So taking a risk, not taking it seriously, or yourself seriously, being kind to yourself, asking for help. I've learned so much, and I'm having a great time.
Yeah, no, I think, and that's a great, valuable lesson for anyone listening. Is, and I think we are trained that way in the corporate world, right? Because no, the corporate world sort of is notoriously bad at not releasing a product until it's perfect and it's
I
ready
know.
and it's polished,
Right.
right?
Right.
And now, of course, it's changed with tech and everything. It's sort of like, gone to the other extreme a little bit. But I think in solopreneurship, it's like you just have to put stuff out there and roll with the punches and not take it personally, because like you said, there's really no other way to understand what's working, what's not working, what's resonating, what's not resonating. And like I love that you said you have to get over yourself. It's not the end of the world.
It's
Yeah.
not the end of the world. And the haters at the beginning were like, okay, so this is a thing now. Like, what are you doing? When you put content out and you start getting haters, you're gonna get haters. That's that's kind of how I felt like I'm doing something right when I started getting haters. And I did cry my first hater, and it made me very sad. But then I'm like, all I could think was, what would Taylor Swift do? Taylor Swift is that right? I'm like, she's a billionaire, gets
She's just
haters
being.
all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Like, okay, I get it. Let's just keep going. Just
Yeah.
do you. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right though, because in advertising we used to always say that if people don't love and hate your idea, then you don't have a point of view. You're doing something wrong if there isn't that much passion. So
Right.
you don't have to, like you said a few minutes ago, you don't have to appeal to everyone, and that's okay. I mean, we're not friends with everyone in the world, right? I mean, like,
Right.
that's just how life works. Yeah.
That's just how life
Yeah.
works.
And we don't have to be for everybody, otherwise we'd be vanilla. um,
Ugh,
yeah.
boring.
Exactly. So if we were to grab a coffee 3 years from now, what do you want to have achieved? What's different? What have you built?
I feel like you and I, 3 years from now, we're going to be on a stage together somewhere. I don't know how. I see that.
I
Doesn't that
love
sound
that.
like fun?
I think it'd be awesome.
It'd be awesome. I think, what else would be different? My book would be out. Um, I have multiple coaches working with me. My speaking brand is established, and people are comfortable being themselves and are open to having that conversation rather than hiding behind the mask.
Yeah, I love that. And sign me up for that
Okay.
talk together. And my book is also, I'm also writing a book. So we're on the same trajectory. And I want to build my speaking engagements this year. So yeah,
Oh
I
my
think
gosh, I'm going to see you in real life
we'll
soon.
egg each other on.
Okay. Deal.
If you could offer one piece of advice to somebody wanting to start their solopreneur journey, what would you tell them?
Just start.
Hmm.
Ask for help. Be yourself.
Love it. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners that we haven't covered?
I don't think so. It's just been a pleasure speaking with you. I love connecting with you. You're just so grounded and thoughtful, and I'm glad to know you. So thank you so much for your time and for having me today.
No, thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that. And the feeling is mutual. So that takes us to our rapid fire round. What's one sentence you wish every high achieving woman had taped to her mirror?
You are enough,
Love
just
it.
as you are.
Perfect. What's your go to permission slip when you catch yourself about to people please now?
Can I curse?
Yeah.
Fuck them. or, or it's like, well, I ask myself, like, will I be able to sleep tonight if I don't say what I really need or think?
Okay.
So it's more like fuck it,
Yeah.
like just be your ring, yeah,
It's like Nike, but replace
whatever.
the just.
The F word.
Just replace the do.
Yeah, whatever. Just be yourself. Who cares?
So you're building a Mount Rushmore of women who inspired your journey. Who's on it?
My coach, since I was like 30, Lisa Lee, she's helped keep me grounded and see myself differently. My friend Erin Kingsbury, who never gives herself enough credit but could run the world. My barn mom friends, Virginia and Jen, because they are also solopreneurs and they love their families and they love what they do. And it's nice to have a friend group that does that. Um, and I would say I'm just going to keep going. This is a big Mount Rushmore for me.
Yeah, it's fine.
Um, my mother and grandmother, because my grandmother, Depression era, lived alone on her farm until her death. And my mother always taught me that I could be whoever I wanted to be, no matter what, even if I didn't know what that meant.
Love that. And I hope they're all listening, your friends.
Oh, they will. They will.
What's one thing you're doing now that would have felt impossible 7 months ago?
Uh, saying what I really think
Yeah.
every single day. If someone asks me to do a consulting project or coach them, and I know how I work and who's a great client and what's a great fit, I think before I would say, oh, I can do that, or what if this? And I'll try to mold myself into it. And now it's just like, it's okay. But I know someone who would be a good fit for you, right? I don't take it personally.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Last one. What's a successful woman trope you want to retire forever?
The first thing that comes to mind is that you can have it all, but it's that I think the trope is you can have it all in a way that people expect you to have it all.
Right.
Like you don't have to be in the C-suite at a multi-million billion dollar company and make dinner every night and have a clean house and be at every game for your kids. Like it's not going to be perfect. It can't. There's only so much if you like you have to come first or else you will collapse in suffocation.
Yeah. No, I love that. So
Do you
figure
want
out
to answer?
what your all is, right?
Right.
Yeah. Not
Okay.
what the world's
Right.
expectation
It's
of
too much.
all is. I love that. That's a
It's too
great
much.
way to end the show. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for this wonderful conversation. And I'm very excited now about our stage appearance.
I know. Yes. When we appear on stage together, you will be my first male guest on my podcast. Deal?
I'm honored. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deal.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
A few things from my conversation with Jennifer really stuck with me. Here's the first lesson: your identity must precede your marketing. Jennifer talked about how when she works with clients, she doesn't start with the resume or the LinkedIn profile. She starts by asking, who are you really? And what do you actually want? And I think that's a massive insight, not just for coaching, but for anyone building a solo business. I see this all the time. People come to me wanting to fix their messaging or their positioning. But what's actually broken is that they haven't figured out who they are outside of what they used to do. So before you update your website copy, spend a week unmuting your actual voice. Don't ask, is this professional? Ask, is this me? Because your ideal clients don't connect to polish, they connect to honesty. Second, stop waiting to design the perfect brand to launch. Jennifer spent years thinking entrepreneurs were special or had a secret blueprint. She even spent a fortune on a beautiful website before she was ready, only to realize later that it didn't even match her personality. Expect your business to look different every 6 months. If you wait for the perfect name or the perfect color palette, you're just feeding the fear that you aren't ready. Remember, done and out there beats perfect and hidden every single time. You learn by doing, you find your niche by trying things, you build authority by sharing your real voice, not a polished version of it. So, whatever you've been sitting on, the post, the offer, the rebrand, the conversation you've been afraid to have, just put it out there. The net appears after the leap. Third, if nobody dislikes your brand doesn't have a point of view. Jennifer got her first hater after she started putting content out there, and she cried. I totally get it. That stings. But then she said something that stuck with me. It made her feel like she was finally doing something right. And she's onto something real there. Back in my advertising days, we had a saying, if people don't love or hate your idea, you don't have a point of view. You're just wallpaper. A lot of solopreneurs sand down all the edges of their brand trying to appeal to everyone and end up connecting with no one. The goal isn't to be likable, the goal is to be distinct. So if someone pushes back on your content or tells you you're too much or says your niche is too specific, that's not a red flag. That's actually a green one. It means your brand has a perspective worth reacting to. Own it. So here's my challenge to you this week, and I'm borrowing Jennifer's language here. Unmute yourself just once. Pick one piece of content, a DM, a LinkedIn post, a podcast pitch that you've been sitting on because it felt too raw, too opinionated, or not polished enough, and post it. Don't soften it. Don't run it through the corporate filter. Don't ask AI to help you polish it. Just say the thing you actually think, the way you actually talk. The only difference between where you are and where you want to be is the decision to stop waiting to feel ready. So go unmute yourself. I'll be listening. Thanks for listening to Unfiltered Solopreneur. If you're listening and realizing your brand feels scattered or you're struggling to package your experience so clients instantly get it, let's fix that. I'm opening up a limited number of free 30-minute brand clarity sessions where we'll pinpoint what's not landing and map your next move. Book it at clarity.boostsolo.com or through the link in the show notes. Until next time, keep breaking free from the corporate grind. And remember, your story is your most powerful asset. Live solo or die corporate.